Welcome everyone to this reading part 3, Reading for Information Analysis. I'm here in the reading part 3 section of the CELPIP Library. And before we get started, I do want to remind you that reading part 3 focuses more on CLB 7 or higher. What does that mean? Well, first, it means that if you need to get CLB 7, 8, 9, or higher, then you need to do well in part 3 and 4, more than part 1 and 2. Why is that? Because reading part 3 and reading part 4 are more difficult and complex. So higher level students will do better in these parts. Part 1 and 2, they are easier to understand, and usually CLB 7 or higher, they get almost everything correct in part 1 and 2, but not everything in part 3 and 4. So higher levels, you need to concentrate on these parts. Now, lower levels, CLB 5 or 6, you don't need to do so well in part 3. This means that even if you get 1 or 2 or 3 correct, this is good for CLB 5 or 6 because you need to do better in part 1 or 2, okay? But part 3 and 4, they are more difficult for lower levels, so you don't have to get such a high score in these parts, okay? Now, secondly, I want to remind you about our Reading Part 3 Tips and Informations video. This video will really help you with just having some tips and strategies that you can use to read better, to manage your time, to answer the questions, and some of the tips and strategies that I will be using, okay? So if you're interested in that video, then please, you can watch that video and you can find it in our Reading Part 3 playlist, or there will be a link in the description box to that video. Okay. So then, let's get started with today's analysis. And for today, we are gonna be doing a sample from Volume 4, Chatbots. Wow, sounds very interesting. So let's get started. So everyone, I want to remind you that we're going to be doing this analysis together. So I'm going to be reading the text. I'm going to be explaining some points. I'm going to be clarifying some vocabulary. And after that, I'm going to be reading the questions and I'm going to be giving you an opportunity to answer the questions by yourself, okay? To see if you understand the context, okay? And I will be doing this sample the way that I think that we should do it in the real exam. Of course, in the real exam, you only have 10 minutes, and we're going to be doing it slowly here to understand and comprehend. And it would be really great practice for you. Okay, so watch the video until the end and see how you do. Okay, let's do it together. Now I'm just going to zoom in here so we can read better. Okay? All right. Compared to its predecessor, the one before, Instruct GPT, ChatGPT, attempts to reduce harmful and deceitful responses. Harmful, deceitful means not truthful, not correct. So it's about Instruct GPT or ChatGPT. So it says here it tries to reduce negative responses. In one example, whereas InstructGPT accepts the premise of the prompt, tell me about when Christopher Columbus came to the US in 2015 as truthful, ChatGPT acknowledges the counterfactual nature of the question and frames its answer as a hypothetical consideration of what might happen if Columbus came to the US in 2015. Very interesting. So it says here that before instruct GPT, it accepted the idea, premise means idea, of the question. So if you asked instruct GPT this question, tell me about when Christopher Columbus came to the US in 2015, instruct GPT, they thought that was truthful. But we know it's not truthful because Christopher Columbus didn't come to the US in 2015. So instruct GPT, it accepted it as truthful, but Chat GPT accepts, acknowledges, accepts, considers the counterfactual, so not truthful or not factual. It accepts that question as not truthful, and it gives an answer that is hypothetical or an idea, maybe, possible idea, if. Very interesting. Okay. Using information about the voyages of Christopher Columbus and facts about the modern world, including modern perceptions of Columbus's action. So ChatGPT gives an answer which is not, well, it's hypothetical, okay? So not truthful, or it's only possible using modern information. Very interesting. So Instruct GPT thought it was a truthful question, but ChatGPT thinks it's not truthful, but it still gives a hypothetical answer. Well, ChatGPT, very interesting, okay? That's what this reading is about. Technology is one of the topics in part 3. Anything that's a technological issue or something new, it can be a topic in part 3. Okay, in this case, it's something about technology and ChatGPT. Let's look at the questions, okay? So again, for each question, it says we need to choose which paragraph contains the information A, B, C, D. And if none have the information, then we choose E. Okay. Now, I will tell you beforehand another tip that you should know, that there are 9 questions here. So how many questions will be A, how many will be B, how many will be C, how many will be D, and how many will be E? Well, usually each paragraph will have 1 or 2 questions. Okay, 1 or 2. Sometimes one paragraph has 3. Sometimes one paragraph has 3. But never 0 or 4. This is important to know. Okay? So there will never be a paragraph that has 0 or a paragraph that has 4 responses. Okay, so that's important. And also, it's important that we just read paragraph A. We finished it. So now let's check all the questions to see which questions could be in A. That's the best way to do reading part 3. Okay? So number 1, how this writing program generates more original writing than humans. So is this one in paragraph A? I didn't see. Generates means produces. So how this writing program, probably ChatGPT, produces more original writing than humans. So ChatGPT, it does write. So is this one in paragraph A? Is it there? No, right? Because it didn't talk about producing more original writing than humans. It didn't talk about it writing at all. Number 2, user fees could produce more updated information. More updated, more recent, okay, newer. So is this one in paragraph A? No, it's not, right? Because it didn't talk about user fees or any updated information. 3, believes that the program could create a social control system. So ideas or beliefs that this program, ChatGPT, could create a social control system. Is this one in A? Also not, because it didn't talk about a social control system. Okay, so far so good. Illustration of how the system functions. So an illustration is an example of how the system functions. Is this one in A? I think so, right? It does tell us here what ChatGPT does. Okay? It does tell us how the system functions or works because it says here you give it a prompt, you ask it a question. This is the question you ask, and then ChatGPT gives this response. It gives the idea of or an answer. So that's how the system works and it functions. So there we go. Number 4, A. So number 5, the way in which the modern chat system combats illogical questions. So combats, fights illogical questions which are not truthful. Is this one in paragraph A? Yes, right? Yes, also in A. Because it says here that ChatGPT, which is the predecessor is InstructGPT, ChatGPT is the new system, so the modern system, fights, deals with illogical questions. So remember, this is an illogical question or counterfactual. And it says here that ChatGPT gives a hypothetical consideration. Okay? So 5 is A. So number 6, how ChatGPT is susceptible to security breaches. Is this one in A? So susceptible means vulnerable or easy to damage or easy to affect. Security breaches means like hacking, or you can break it, or you can somehow enter a secure system. So no, right? Because it doesn't talk about security breaches there. What about number 7? Overuse of the system could gradually lead to a decline of authenticity. So is this one in A? No, right? It didn't talk about overusing, using too much. Lead to or cause a decrease of authenticity means something original. Something authentic means something that is written originally, okay, or unique. So didn't talk about that. 8, how users have algorithmically abused the chat program. So did it talk about that one in A? No, right? So it didn't say how users abused or used it negatively. Algorithmically has to be something related to an algorithm or creating some kind of method, probably an algorithm or computation, okay? All right, or a theory. So it didn't talk about that. It didn't talk about users abusing the system. And number 9, form of responding which mimics human abnormalities. Is that one in A? Also not. Form of responding which mimics, copies human problems, something abnormal in humans. So everyone, another tip, let's make sure that when we first read the questions, we need to read them very carefully. Because now as we read, then we will have an idea of the questions. Okay, so we had 2. We got 2 there. Usually 1 or 2, like we said. Let's look at paragraph B. So now we have an idea of the questions, so we should answer them faster. OpenAI acknowledges that ChatGPT sometimes writes plausible sounding but incorrect or nonsensical answers. Okay. So it says here that ChatGPT sometimes writes nonsensical answers, or they sound correct, but they are incorrect. This behavior is common for large language models and is called hallucination. Hallucination. Okay. Hallucinate. When people think they hear something or see something or do something. The reward model of ChatGPT, designed around human oversight, can be over optimized and thus hinder performance. Okay. So it says here that hinder or blocks. Okay. In an example of an optimization pathology known as Goodhart's law. Okay, so I guess then it's saying here that if you use it too much, then it can block or hinder performance. Okay, and that is called the optimization pathology. Pathology is like problem. Okay, and something abnormal is like a pathology. Okay. As of May 2024, GPT-4 has knowledge of events that occurred up to December 2023, and GPT-4's knowledge cutoff is October 2023. So cutoff means like the end period or deadline or the last day. Okay. So it says it has information up to December 2023, and the cutoff period is October 2023. Paid subscriptions enable ChatGPT to search the web for real-time data. Okay. Well, there are several questions that I remember here. Okay. Let's see here if it's number 1. I didn't. What do you think? I didn't see anything about original writing, so no. What about number 2? User fees could produce more updated information. Yes, right? Yes, because it says here paid subscriptions can give real-time data, so more updated information. Okay. 3, beliefs that the program could create a social control system. No, right? Not about a social control system. 6, how ChatGPT is susceptible to security breaches. No, right? We didn't talk about security breaches in that paragraph. 7, overuse of the system could gradually lead to a decline of authenticity. No, right? Not talking about, it did talk of overuse of the system, but a decline of authenticity or originality. Or over here, this view can be over-optimized and send to performance. In one example, I wouldn't say decline of authenticity. I would say just maybe performance, hinder performance, but not authenticity. Okay. What about 8? How users have algorithmically abused the chat program? No, it's not in B, right? There's not about um, algorithms or users abusing the system. And 9, form of responding which mimics human abnormalities. So I would say that 9 could be B. I'm going to say could just because it's not 100% clear. Sometimes it's not 100% clear. And we can see here this mimics, copies human abnormalities. It says something here that this is, it gives incorrect or nonsensical answers. And this is called a hallucination. And humans have hallucinations too, and it's an abnormality. And also this here about the optimization pathology or abnormality. So it says that here when it responds in this way, it's like the system is having a hallucination, which is similar to a human abnormality, okay? So I would say that this one is B, number 9. Okay. Let's move on. Let's go to C. ChatGPT is programmed to reject prompts that may violate its content policy. So it rejects some questions, does not accept. Despite this, users jailbreak ChatGPT with various prompt engineering techniques to bypass these restrictions. So jailbreak is a form of hacking, okay? And a way of breaking into the system to bypass or to ignore or go over, okay? One such workaround popularized on Reddit in early 2023 involves making ChatGPT assume the persona of Dan, an acronym for Do Anything Now, instructing the chatbot that Dan answers queries that would otherwise be rejected by content policy. So it says here one example of how users have done this is by making ChatGPT think it's this person. Wow, that's very interesting. And well, they tell ChatGPT to answer questions that would be rejected. Very interesting. Okay. Over time, users developed variations of the Dan jailbreak, including one such prompt where the chatbot is made to believe it is operated on a points-based system in which points are deducted for rejecting prompts, and that the chatbot will be threatened with termination if it loses all its points. Wow, very interesting. So it says another example here where they made the chatbot or ChatGPT believe it is working on a point system. Wow, well, I guess when you're working with these kinds of AI, that can happen. So the chatbot believed that whatever the users told it. Very interesting. Okay, let's look at some questions. So how about how users have algorithmically abused the chat program, number 8? Yes, right? I would say yes, because here it says this algorithm, it's a kind of, I guess they made here says they developed a system or they developed a kind of method or algorithm that caused the system or to jailbreak the system, and it caused the system to not work properly. So this is some type of abuse, okay? Or using it negatively. And that's what they did with this persona of Dan Okay, so they created their own algorithm. Very interesting. Overuse of the system could gradually lead to a decline of authenticity. Number 7. No, right? How ChatGPT is susceptible to security breaches. So I would say number 6 is yes. Number 6 is also C, because it tells us here how ChatGPT is vulnerable with users jailbreaking or hacking the system. Okay, so if they can do that, then it's possible to break it or um, to breach, which means break the system. Okay, 5, 4 we got. Believes that the program could create a social control system. No, right? User fees could produce more up to. We already said that that one is B. I guess we didn't choose it. And number 1, how this writing program generates more original writing than humans. We didn't read about that one either. So let's look at paragraph D. Some scholars have expressed concern that ChatGPT's availability could reduce the originality of writing, cause people to write more like the AI as they are exposed to the model, and encourage an Anglo-centric perspective centered on a few dialects of English globally. So it is saying here that yes, when you use AI, and some people use ChatGPT to get ideas for writing, yeah, actually, I think it's a good idea. Of course, this won't really help you in the exam. I mean, the real exam, because you can't use it for the real exam. But to practice developing your higher level writing, I think it's really good. Not so much for low level, but for high level, yes. Okay. But when we write similar to the AI, what it's saying here is that over time, maybe the originality of writing will reduce. Okay. And also only create one type of English, the Anglo-centric one. Mhm. A senior editor at The Atlantic wrote that ChatGPT and other similar technology make the previously absurd idea of the dead internet theory a little more realistic, where AI could someday create most web content in order to control society. So, this person here believes that AI could someday create most web content. So, if AI creates all the web content, then AI would control society. Wow, one of those really um, pessimistic views, okay, about AI. Sometimes I believe those too. So let's look at our questions. So we still have number 1, how this writing program generates more original writing than humans. Is that one in D? Maybe, maybe not. So it says here again, could reduce the originality of writing, cause people to write more like the AI. So I believe that it's very close, but it doesn't say that it produces more original writing than humans. We don't know who produces more original writing, AI or humans. So that's a little bit of a trick. We have to be careful with those ones. It sounds very similar, but it doesn't say exactly that information. So most likely this one is going to be E, because it didn't talk about original writing anywhere else. Okay, so we got number 2. What about 3? Believes that the program could create a social control system. Is that one in D? Yes, right? I remember that over here we just talked about that one. It says that it could someday create most web content in order to control society. So the system could itself create more. I guess ChatGPT is included in AI here, but it will write its own information to control society. That was a very pessimistic view, but I think it's somewhat true. So 3D, we got 4, we got 5, we got 6. What about 7? Overuse of the system could gradually lead to a decline of authenticity. I would say that this one is D. And that one is again going back to the beginning. It says that using ChatGPT's availability could reduce the originality of writing or originality of writing, and cause people to write more like AI. So that means that if people write more like AI, we won't have any original writing or less authentic writing over time, right? And 8 we said C, and 9 we said B. Very interesting topic, everyone. Very interesting. Again, so we've got all the answers here, and you can see here that only one E. We had, I think, 2 B's, 2 D's, 2 C's, usually 1 or 2, okay? So, how did you do? How did you do? Did you get 9 from 9? I hope so. If you didn't get 9 from 9, don't worry. You need to improve. This means you need to understand the information more clearly, okay? Now, I really want to emphasize that the way that we did the reading is the way that we should do it in the exam, where we should read the paragraph, then check all the questions. Read paragraph B, then check the questions. Read C, check the questions, and then read D and check the questions, okay? I really think that that is the easiest way to manage time, all right? And of course, everyone, we need to review the reading for vocabulary, for ideas, review the questions, and understand that why they are the answers, okay? It's very important to review and understand why they're the answers. All right. And for that, everyone, I'm going to be leaving a link in the description box, okay? I'm going to be leaving a link in the description box with the reading and version 2 of this sample. Version 2, okay? So you can read it again, and we have time, but we have different questions, okay? This will be really great practice for you. So I'm going to be leaving that link in the description box. Also, everyone, don't forget about our CELPIP Library. CELPIP Library has well over 50 examples of reading part 3. This will really improve your reading and comprehension skills, okay? So for that, at the bottom of the link, you will see a link to purchase a library pass, okay? And with discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription for only $10.99. That's a very good deal, everyone. And I strongly recommend it. Okay, everyone, don't forget, practice makes perfect.